Yo, what's up, guys? Another embarrassing performance tonight by the Toronto Maple Leafs. Getting absolutely embarrassed tonight, guys. Losing to the Ottawa Senators 5-2, guys. Now, what a start to this hockey game that we had tonight, guys. Anthony Stolarz was obviously supposed to start in this game tonight. Obviously, Joseph Woll had played last night against the Carolina Hurricanes, but unfortunately, as we heard in warm-up, guys, William Nylander takes a shot a little bit above Anthony Stolarz' shoulder, and unfortunately, as we saw, stung Stolarz the wrong way, unfortunately, a warm-up, went to the hospital. Leafs didn't even have a backup there. Obviously, Joe will have to start, had to get an e-bug there, of course, guys. So, obviously, a bit of a disaster to start the game, of course. But the game itself was a disaster in its own right, guys. Just another pathetic performance tonight by the Leafs, not having one period with more than 10 shots in it, guys. Just incredible to me. The Leafs having single-digit shots in every period. No more than, I think it was 7 or 8 shots in one period in this game today, guys. It was just absolutely pathetic by the Maple Leafs in this game tonight. There are times where I watch this team and I just say to myself, are they even going to score a bloody goal, even get a chance on that because of how little ozone time they get, how little opportunities they threaten, in these last couple of weeks, of course, it's really frustrating and difficult to watch, the way this team is playing, obviously, guys. It is just really, really ugly at times, to say the least. Sure, it was a little bit quiet to start the game. Things obviously got a little bit chippy as things rolled on. Leafs got a power play, then Ekman Larson takes a penalty, then as we saw, Michelli takes another penalty, so then we saw Ottawa get on the power play, we saw Tim Stützle make it 1-0 with a shot on net. They're getting under Joel Wall. Pretty bad penalty by Michelli in their own end there for the Leafs. Ottawa takes the 1-0 lead. And obviously Ottawa are very desperate for points, guys. Trying to get into a playoff spot, of course, trying to get into a wild card. They need as much points as possible. We all know where the Maple Leafs stand, but you just see the way this team plays, guys. They are just out to lunch every bloody game that we are going to watch the rest of the way. And the Senators just continue to push. The first period wasn't as bad as I would say the second and third because, other than the Robertson shot on net and Nylander hitting the post, the Leafs didn't really have any opportunities in the first period. And then Ottawa outshoots the Maple Leafs, like no tomorrow in the second and third period. Outshooting them 19-5 in the second, and then outshooting them in the third was 15-3. It was complete and utter embarrassment for the Maple Leafs in this game, guys. Ottawa takes the 2-0 lead, as we saw, with a shot on net. Drew had tipped it. He ends up getting the rebound. What can Joe Wall do? Honestly, there's nothing Joe Wall can do, guys. Drew's in front of that all by himself. Joe Wall, can make every save he possibly can. Sooner or later, the Leafs were going to give up an opportunity here and there. And as we saw tonight, there were many opportunities for the Senators, guys. Drew makes it 2-0, as we saw. Then we saw Philip Myers turn the puck over with a really weak backhanded attempt to clear out the puck. Fogle, who got acquired from the Kings at the deadline, scores a 5-hole goal there on Joe Wall, probably the goal that he would want back, but it was slightly deflected, so it's not completely Joe Wall's fault, of course, guys. Once again, the team leaves him out there hanging to dry. Of course, guys, Senators are taking a 3-0 commanding lead, and then the only two guys tonight that were out there at least trying, they obviously looked like they were playing well, was John Tavares and Easton Cowan. They were the only two guys that stood out for me tonight. John Tavares and Easton Cowan both had 3 shots apiece, guys. That means they had six shots combined out of the Leafs' 14. So those two there combined for almost half of the Leafs' shots in this game tonight. John Tavares and Cowan played on a line together to start with Nick Robertson. Then Berube put Nylander on the line with them, and we saw them link up for a nice goal to cut it down to 3-1. Nice little give and go there. Nice pass by Cowan to Tavares to make it 3-1 there. Right near the end of the second period, guys. Then Bull Grew had a chance. Michelli got robbed on a glove save there with the power play there. So the Leafs had maybe 2 to 3 chances in the second period as well, guys, but very limited chances. They cut it to 3-1, then they cut it down to 3-2 in the third period with Nylander making a nice play, stealing the puck back, and then Cowan is able to get the goal there to make it 3-2. And I'm thinking to myself, are the Leafs about to get themselves another bloody point? I was saying to myself, are the Senators about to choke away a 3-0 lead to this Maple Leafs team that can't generate any opportunities, any shots on net, getting hemmed in their own end majority of the game? It would have been extremely extremely frustrating if that was the case. Luckily, it wasn't. As we saw, Spence took a shot from the point there, went off the back of the boards. Amadio was able to get the rebound there because, of course, nobody sees him there behind the net there, guys. Just completely lifeless, completely unaware of what they've seen behind them there, guys. Not even looking. No awareness, no defensive awareness at all there. Amadio makes it 4-2. Ironically, not former Leaf, guys. So he makes it 4-2. And then just to rub salt on the wound, to see Wrigley Greg get a goal wide open in the middle there, geeking out Joe Wall and making it 5-2 for the Senators, guys. It was 2 hours that I wish I obviously could get back, of course, but at the same time, though, guys, Leafs do get the job done, getting another loss in the column, which is obviously good. Of course, we want the Leafs to continue to lose games, especially in regulation, of course, but my God, it's just extremely putrid, guys. Getting outshot 44-14 in this game, guys, and I tweeted it before I made this video. The Maple Leafs have been outshot 53 times in 71 games this season, guys. It's incredible to me, that statistic. And then post-Olympic break, the Leafs have a 2-8-4 record, a -20 goal differential, and have given up 499 shots on net since the Olympic break, guys. Incredible to me, man, how putrid this team has been since the Olympics, guys. It is incredible. Joe Wall has faced 80 shots plus his last 2 starts. He's played in 6 of in the last 8 games, Joe Wall. And then Craig Berube running his mouth saying, Joe Wall played well, but I think we needed a save in overtime. What does it bloody matter? Honestly, he knows he's going to get fired. The Leafs are done for the year. Joe Wall has been playing solid, if you ask me, since the Olympic break. He is not at fault for why this hockey team is absolute dog shit. Joe Wall is one of the only few reasons why the Leafs haven't been embarrassed in a couple of games other than tonight, of course. It wasn't his fault. Both him and Stolarz have been hung out to dry in every game since the Olympic break. It's pathetic, guys. It really is. And then Craig Berube wants to say shit like that, and then Joe Wall has to get thrusted in tonight for replacing Stolarz for getting hurt in warm-up. It's like really unfair to Joe Wall. And then, with Berube, with Knies as well, Berube saying, oh, well, I haven't heard anything since the Olympics, so I'm sure he's healthy. After Knies had just said yesterday that he's dealing with something, Berube goes and says that. There's just such a disconnect between the locker room with the players and the coach right now, guys, clearly with upper management as well. It has been one of the worst seasons, obviously, in over a decade, of course. It's been absolutely pathetic, to say the least, guys, and then you get the Senators fans, really, like, you people for real? Really? We miss Mitch Marner? Really? Last time I checked, did we not beat you guys last year in the playoffs? Pretty handedly. You got lucky, won a couple games. You people say we need Marner? I think you people need a bloody brain, if you ask me. You're not even in a playoff spot yet. And you're barking about us needing Marner because we're going to miss the playoffs for the first time in 10 years, and you guys are running your mouth? Shut the hell up, you stupid Senator fans, honestly. You people are making me sick. You guys barely make the playoffs, last year. The first time you made the playoffs in over a bloody decade almost, and you guys are running your mouth? Remember where you are. Stay in your freaking lane, Senator fans. Shut your bloody mouths, okay? Because you guys better pray to God that this Maple Leafs team don't figure it out in the offseason, because we'll come right back after you. But the Leafs are where they are right now because of management, because of how the players have played, because of a lot of variables, guys. There's been a lot of variables as to why the Maple Leafs are in the position that they're in. Okay? Listen, it starts with the coach, starts with the GM, it starts with a bunch of people. But the way this team has operated, they've mentally checked out weeks ago. They've checked out. We've known that. There's 11 games left. Thank God. I wish there was less than 11 games, so we can get this season over with, because we all know that this hockey team here is just not good enough. Other than John Tavares and Easton Cowan tonight, nobody was good. Nobody was good. They were the only 2 guys that stood out to me tonight, John Tavares and Easton Cowan. They were the best 2 players on the ice for the Leafs, and I don't even know if I want to use the word best. They were the most noticeable, I will say, because nobody was good tonight. Because this Leafs team are just going through the motions. They're just dragging on in games. Guys are invisible, like guys like Domi. You don't see anybody on the third line being productive other than Bolgru, of course, who didn't get any points tonight for the first time in like 4 games. So, listen, guys, it has been an absolute grind these last few weeks. The last couple weeks are going to be a grind as well. This was another horrendous performance tonight by the Toronto Maple Leafs, getting embarrassed tonight against the Ottawa Senators, a provincial rival again. You know, this is the second time in a couple weeks the Leafs have been embarrassed by the Senators. Ottawa embarrassed us in Toronto not that long ago. It was only 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure 2 to 3 weeks ago. They embarrassed us, outshot the Maple Leafs, you know, dramatically in that game as well. Was dominant in ozone time in that game as well. They did the same things tonight, the Senators. They were the deserved winners tonight, no doubt about it. The Maple Leafs are in an absolute black hole right now. It's an absolute negative cloud, guys. It's horrendous right now to be a Leafs fan, you know, and then to hear the chirps that the Senators fans had, it really just annoys me, to say the least. This season has been an absolute horrendous season, guys. Like I'm at a loss for words, honestly, at how bad this season has been. You know, losing 16, I didn't think it'd be this bad. I'm not saying he's the number one reason why they're in this position. Sure, losing a 102 point player hurts this team, but man, oh man, there is a lot of deficiencies with this hockey team that needs to be addressed in the offseason, and I think the coach is the first issue that needs to go, and probably the GM is the other issue. But who knows with this Leafs organization? We have seen crazier things happen with this organization, guys. I would not be surprised if those two end up staying. Wouldn't be shocked. Hopefully they don't, because the way this season has gone, the stats I just said to you guys, you know, since the Olympic breaks and the season in general, it's just not been good enough, guys, you know. And just was just another example tonight of where this season has gone for the Toronto Maple Leafs, guys. But listen, guys, we'd love your thoughts and opinions on this game tonight between the Leafs and Senators, guys. Another putrid performance tonight by the Leafs, guys. So like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Leafs, go as always, guys, I guess, right? We'll see you guys on the next episode of Leafs Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.